The next chapter is called The Brown Hen. George stood in the farmyard looking up at the roof. The old farmyard had a fine roof of pale red tiles and a tall chimney. There was no sign of Grandma. There was only a song thrush sitting on one of the chimney pots singing a song. The old Ruzel got stuck in the attic, George thought. Thank goodness for that. Suddenly, a tile came clattering down from the roof and fell into my yard. The thrush took off fast and flew away. And another tile came down, and half a dozen more. And then very slowly, like some weird monster rising up from the deep, Grandma's head came through the roof. Then her scrawny neck, and the tops of her shoulders. "How am I doing, boy?" she shouted. How's that for a bash up?" "Don't you think you better stop now, Grandma?" George called out. "I have stopped," she answered. "I feel terrific. Didn't I tell you I have magic powers? Didn't I warn you I had wizardry in the tips of my fingers? But you wouldn't listen to me, would you? You wouldn't listen to your old Grandma." "You didn't do it, Grandma," George shouted back to her. "I did it. I made you a new medicine." "A new medicine? You? What rubbish!" she yelled. I did, George shouted. "You're lying, as usual," Grandma yelled. "You're always lying." "I'm not lying, Grandma. I swear I'm not." The wrinkled old face high up in the roof stared down suspiciously at George. "Are you telling me you actually made a new medicine all by yourself?" she shouted. "Yes, Grandma, all by myself." "I don't believe you," she answered. "But I'm very comfortable up here. Fetch me a cup of tea." Still bossing him around, "Fetch me a cup of tea." A brown hen was pecking about the yard close to where George was standing. The hen gave him an idea. Quickly he uncorked the medicine bottle and poured some of the brown stuff onto a spoon. "Watch this, Grandma," he shouted. What do you think he's going to do? He crouched down, holding out the spoon to the hen. "Chicken," he said. Chicken, come here. Have some of this." Chickens are stupid birds and very greedy. They think everything is food. This one thought the spoon was full of corn. He hopped over. It put its head on one side and looked at the spoon. "Come on, chicken," said George. "Good chicken. Chick, chick." The brown hen stretched out its neck toward the spoon and went to peck. It got a beak full of medicine. The effect was electric. Stop and predict. What do you think's going to happen? "Whee!" shrieked the hen as it shot straight up into the air like a rocket, and then as high as the house. Then down it came from the yard, sploosh, and there it sat with its feathers all up, sticking straight out of its body. There was a look of amazement on its silly face. George stood watching it. Grandma up at the roof was watching too. The hen got to its feet. It was rather shaky. It was making funny glurping noises with its throat. Its beak was opening and shutting. It seemed like a pretty sick hen. You've done it, you stupid boy," Grandma shouted. "The hen's gonna die. Your father will be after you now. He'll give you socks, and you deserve them." And all of a sudden, black smoke started pouring out of the hen's beak. "It's on fire!" Grandma yelled. "The hen is on fire!" George ran to get a bucket of water. That hen will be roasted and ready for eating at any moment," Grandma shouted. George sloshed the bucket of water over to the hen. Then a sizzling sound, and the smoke went away. Old hen laid an egg. Laid its last egg, Grandma shouted. Hens don't do anything at Hens don't do any laying after they've been on fire. Now that the fire was out, the hen seemed better. It stood up properly. It flapped its wings, and it crouched down low to the ground, as though getting ready to jump. It did jump. It jumped high in the air and turned a complete somersault. It landed back on its feet. A curious hen, Grandma shouted from the rooftop. It's a flying acrobat. Now the hen began to grow. George had been waiting for this to happen. It's growing, he yelled. It's growing, Grandma. Look, it's growing. Bigger and bigger, taller and taller it grew. Soon the hen was 4 or 5 times its normal size. Can you see it, Grandma? He shouted. I can see it, boy, the old woman shouted back. I'm watching it. George was hopping about from one foot to the other with excitement, pointing at the enormous hen and shouting, It's the magic medicine, Grandma. It's growing just like you did. But there was a difference between the way the hen was growing and the way Grandma grew. When Grandma grew taller and taller, she got thinner and thinner. The hen didn't. It stayed nice and plump all along. Soon it was taller than George, but it didn't stop there. It went right on to growing until it was about as big as the house. Then it stopped. Doesn't it look marvelous, Grandma? George shouted. It's not as tall as me, Grandma sang out. Compared to me, that hen is titchy tall. I'm the tallest of them all.